Donald Trump is panicking as world leaders are publicly predicting catastrophic fallout from Donald Trump's disastrous war, no matter what happens from here on out. Also, you have the Iranian regime rebuking Donald Trump yet again and saying, let's be very clear, we are not negotiating with Donald Trump or anyone in the Trump regime. Donald Trump attempted to manipulate the markets yet again earlier this morning, and for a short period of time he did that, but then the markets turned against him yet again and turned against the American people yet again as the consequences of his lies, his deceit, his catastrophic war are now clearly setting in yet again. So you have Italy's defense minister said the following on the consequences of Trump's disastrous Iran war for Italy and the rest of the world. He writes or says, I'm forced to know things about what could happen in the coming weeks and the effects it will have on the economy and our daily lives that no longer allow me to sleep. Meanwhile, South Korea's president said today, the world is in turmoil over the energy crisis. The situation is so serious that it has even kept me up at night. The immediate problem is grave enough, but the outlook ahead seems even more unstable. The situation is worse than expected. And folks, the way we saw what was happening with COVID back in 2020, as Donald Trump was denying it and right before Easter saying like a miracle it was going to go away, we're going to bend the curve. And then we saw it grow and grow and grow. Well, we have that happening right now, and it's a Donald Trump unlawful war against Iran. And this time, whereas COVID wasn't out there saying what was happening. I mean, here we have the Iranian regime calling Donald Trump a liar, saying that Donald Trump is making this up and saying that Iran is not going to leave the Strait of Hormuz, that the same economic architecture that existed before the war ain't going to exist anymore. Again, I want to go through the data, the details, the facts, not the spin, and show you what's really happening out there. So you have Iran's foreign ministry spokesperson, Baghay. He gave a press conference today where he reiterated Iran has not had any direct negotiations or indirect negotiations with the United States. What has been communicated to us, whatever you may call it, the Iran foreign minister, like their press secretary says, is 15 points more or less are a set of very excessive, unrealistic, and irrational demands. Iran has been clear about its position from the very beginning, and we know very well what the framework is that we are considering. The material conveyed to us has been excessive and unreasonable. The meetings that Pakistan has are a framework that they established themselves and that we did not participate in. Let me show you what Iran's foreign minister said moments ago. Play this clip.
We have had no direct negotiations with America so far. Since the last round of negotiations until now, the US demands have been very excessive, unrealistic, and illogical. The meetings that Pakistan has with neighboring countries are, well, a framework they themselves have established. We have not participated in this framework. Can it be allowed that Iran and Iranians be in a position of confronting the illegal aggression of America and the Zionist regime to use the available capabilities on the soil of regional countries while our armed forces remain silent? The duty of every authority demands that it respond to such cases with...
And meanwhile, the guy who Donald Trump claims that he's negotiating with, the head of Iran's parliament, MB Ghalibaf, has continuously denied that he's having any conversations. And he said, why would we still be controlling the Strait of Hormuz? Why are we not allowing any American ships to pass? We're only allowing 2 Chinese ships to pass because they are our allies, and the Pakistani ships have nothing to do with the United States. We're having no negotiations, and that Trump is engaged in market manipulation. MB Ghalibaf predicted exactly what would happen in the market today. He goes, heads up. This is what he said earlier. Free market so-called news or truth is often just a setup for profit taking. Basically, it's a reverse indicator. Do the opposite. If they pump it, short it. If they dump it, go long. See something tomorrow, you know the drill. And he was right. It's exactly what happened. Iran's parliamentary spokesperson, they're calling him the Oracle of Tehran. Markets initially rose after Trump's early post threatening Iran's energy sector, but then the S&P 500 tanked. The market slid in general. Oil prices continued to surge. Donald Trump started posting videos of himself from the 1980s and the 1990s where he was talking about seizing Iranian oil. And that's the statements that Donald Trump made to the Financial Times. Well, we're going to seize their oil. We're going to take their oil. It's going to be ours. Okay, well, you're just helping the Iranian propaganda and the Iranian press efforts to their people say, look what the Americans are doing. They're saying it. They're saying they want to engage in war crimes. They're saying they want to attack our desalination plants and energy infrastructure, which are per se war crimes under international law. So after Iranian spokesperson gave that press conference, you had Caroline Leavitt hold a press conference. And here's what she had to say about the Iran war timeline. Let me show you what she had to say. Well, I'll show you actually what she said over here, where she said, the president insists negotiations are underway. And the reporter says, the president insists that negotiations are underway. And he has said Iran has agreed to most of the 15 points, but Iran says no negotiations are taking place. How do you explain that discrepancy? Here's what she says. Play this clip.
Americans are sort of seeing these conflicting messages between the United States and Iran. I know the president insists that negotiations are underway. As you just mentioned, he's also said that Iran has agreed to most of the 15 points. We just heard from Iran again. They're saying no negotiations are taking place. They're calling the proposal excessive, unrealistic. So how do you square that? How do you explain that discrepancy between the two?
I think the American people are smart enough not to take the word of a terrorist regime that has chanted death to America for 47 years at their word. And I hope the journalists in this room are wise enough not to take an Iranian regime that has repeatedly lied about our country, about our values, about everyone in this room, frankly, for nearly 5 decades.
So again, she goes, it's a super secret negotiation. We're not going to tell you who it's with, but we're having it, while Iran's like, we're not negotiating with them. We've been very clear. He's lying about everything. More from Caroline Leavitt here. And she says that the U.S. is now considering forcing Arab nation allies to pay for the U.S. war in Iran. So it's the U.S. war, and now the Arab nations have to pay for it. Let's watch what Caroline Leavitt has to say right here. Let's play the clip.
Pay for the vast majority of the cost of the war. Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, the UAE. Who's paying for the cost of this war? Will those Arab countries step up to do just that?
Well, I think it's something the president would be quite interested in calling them to do. I won't get ahead of him on that, but certainly it's an idea that I know that he has and something that I think you'll hear more from him on.
And by the way, in response to this press conference, you have the Iranian spokesperson account in response to Caroline Leavitt saying, Donald Trump has stated this will take 4 to 6 weeks. And then the Iranian press department responds, so the war will probably last another 10 years. Sorry, operation. Mocking her. Then the Iranian embassy in South Africa in response to Donald Trump saying that he's going to obliterate energy infrastructure in Iran, desalination plants, and other civilian infrastructure. The Iranian embassy says, let me correct you. The brave soldiers of Iran are hitting seriously the idiot, unreasonable regime of the USA, and they do it in all caps. I'm just showing you what they're saying over there because I know American media isn't giving you any of this perspective. Going back to Caroline Leavitt, a reporter asks her, Donald Trump says he's going to blow up the desalination plants and the civilian energy infrastructure. Those are war crimes. What's your response to that? Here, play this clip.
The president posted this morning about, his threat that on leaving Iran, he said we might blowing up and completely obliterating all of their electric generating plants, oil wells, Harg Island, and possibly all desalination plants. Under international law, striking civilian infrastructure like that is generally prohibited. Why is the president threatening what would amount to potentially a war crime with the U.S. military? And how do you square that with the administration repeatedly saying that the U.S. does not target civilians?
Look, the president has made it quite clear to the Iranian regime at this moment in time, as evidenced by the statement that you just read, that their best move is to make a deal, or else the United States Armed Forces has capabilities beyond their wildest imagination, and the president is not afraid to use them. That's not what I said, Garrett. And you're saying the word potential for a reason, because I'm sure some experts are telling you that in your ear to try to ask me that question. Of course, this administration and the United States Armed Forces will always act within the confines of the law. But with respect to achieving the full objectives of Operation Epic Fury, President Trump is going to move forward unabated, and he expects the Iranian regime to make a deal with the administration.
To that end, which of those objectives would destroying a desalinization plant most help?
Haley, go ahead.
What about American-made landmines that have been spotted in Iran, Caroline? Here, play this clip.
On one question on landmines, there's been some reporting that American-made landmines have been spotted on the ground in Iran. Did President Trump sign off on using U.S.-made landmines in Iran?
I don't have any comment on that report today.
Caroline, whether they're being used at all?
I don't have any comment on that. Karen.
A reporter then asks, so why was the administration okay with Russia breaking the embargo, sending its ships into Cuba when America said that the United States had an executive order saying any country that brought oil into Cuba or any other material assistance would face grave tariffs? Like, you threaten Mexico and you threaten Colombia and all these other countries, but you let Putin just go in there and go right into Cuba. By the way, probably giving Cuba weapons as well as other support in addition to humanitarian aid and oil. So what's your response to that? And then Caroline Levitt's like, well, it's a case-by-case basis, so that's why. I mean, Trump's a Putin bootlicker, just admit it. Then a reporter goes, well, what about Mexico? What if Mexico wants to do it? We probably won't let that happen. Here's what she says. Play this clip.
Right now. I'll take a few more. Solon.
Thank you. You listed the described humanitarian reasons for allowing that oil tanker to reach Cuba. Just to clarify, why was the administration okay with Russia sending that oil to Cuba and not other nations?
Look, it was a decision. It'll continue to be made on a case-by-case basis for humanitarian reasons or otherwise, but there's been no firm change in our sanctions policy.
President Sheinbaum of Mexico also said that Mexico is exploring different ways to restart some of those shipments to Cuba. Is the administration okay with that at this time?
Again, no change in our sanction policy. We still reserve the right to seize vessels if it's legally applicable that are headed towards Cuba and that violate the United States sanction policy. But of course, the president and the administration also reserve the right to waive those seizures on a case-by-case basis.
And to clarify, just any more Russian oil tankers going to be allowed to reach Cuba at this time? I know you say case-by-case, but for the case of Russia, is it pretty much green light right now?
No, that's not what I said. It's a case-by-case basis.
Well, Caroline, what's your message to truckers right now who are facing $5.38 per gallon diesel? Here, play this clip.
The cost of diesel is averaging at $5.38 a gallon right now. What's the message from the Trump administration to truck drivers who are dealing with those high fuel costs right now?
Again, we understand, we hear you, we see you. We are fully tracking this short-term fluctuation in oil and in diesel prices. And that's why the president and the administration have continually announced robust actions to provide stability in the global energy market. As you know, political risk insurance, one of those actions, allowing countries to purchase sanctioned oil just to increase the supply. In the meantime, we've worked to release 400 billion barrels of oil and refined products as well. We issued the 60-day Jones Act waiver. All of this has, with the goal of increasing supply to create stabilization in the market in the meantime. But the overall message, as we've repeatedly stated, is, again, these are short-term actions and short-term price fluctuations for the long-term benefit of ending the threat that Iran poses to the United States of America, our troops, and our allies in the region, and ensuring that this regime can no longer control the world's free flow of energy through the Strait of Hormuz, which is something the administration continues to tackle day by day as well.
And then Caroline Levitt's like, the reason that we killed the prior leaders of Iran is that they were dragging out negotiations. That's why they're dead. Here, let's play this clip of Caroline Levitt right here.
The president says more reasonable. Again, these folks are appearing more reasonable behind the scenes privately in these conversations than perhaps some of the previous leaders who are now no longer on planet Earth because they lied to the United States and they strung us along in negotiations, and that was unacceptable to the president, which is why many of the previous leaders were killed.
Also, Caitlin Dornbos reports that Donald Trump confirmed to me today that the U.S. is negotiating with Iranian parliamentary speaker Mohammad Bagheri Yair Galabaf, that's the MB Galabaf guy I told you about, saying we'll find out in about a week. Just wait 1 week. Just wait 2 weeks. As our editor-in-chief, Ron Filipkowski, writes, Trump said last night and Rubio said this morning that they cannot name the person they were negotiating with or he would be killed by others in Iran. But now he claims he's negotiating with someone who's repeatedly denied. I mean, this is an utter humiliation ritual right now for the United States. And by the way, Iran continues to target its Arab neighbors who are providing material assistance to the United States and where there are American military bases located. For example, you have the UAE, Kuwait, being struck, Bahrain still, being hit, Saudi Arabia. And take a look. This is in Israel right here. The location of the Iranian missiles hitting Haifa was announced. Haifa refinery and fuel tank. You can see right there these images of Haifa being hit. So there you have it, folks. We'll keep you posted every step of the way. Hit subscribe. Help us get to 7 million subscribers. Thanks, y'all, for watching.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.